Oh, come on. Yeah, it's just
Stories.
Why is this doing this?
It's always something.
Yeah.
Always something.
It is the most legal thing I have ever experienced in my life. I got fired from working at Red Robin for doing that. When do we get to bury him in a thing and jerk off on him, though? I'd say I could take on 3 11-year-olds. And he clicks the button, and he's just this woman cussing him the fuck out. This is the weirdest theory I've ever heard in my entire life. Well, in a lot of ways, Big Boy's never left. I agree. He will tell you I'm a bad driver, but there's no evidence for that. I have intuition and I'm deep, and then people fall for absolute monsters on a regular basis.
Okay. Hey, guys. Welcome to the Two Hippies, One Drunk podcast. This episode's going to run a little bit differently because we're more or less all going to be the hosts, and we're going to be interviewing somebody for this episode. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe our Facebook page, comment, like all our stuff. That'd be fantastic. Leave us a review on iTunes and 5 stars. So for this week, like I said, it's going to be a little bit different, but we're very excited about it. We are insanely lucky to have this special guest, Jenny Lafemme. Am I correct in Lafemme?
Yeah, that's my DJ name. Of course, I have a real name, but we can like whatever name you want to go by.
We actually kind of debated about that, like what exactly you'd rather go by.
I can never pronounce it. Ferota. Can you pronounce it, Jen?
My real name is Evgenia Vladimirovna Fitirovich.
Okay.
So obviously nobody could say that, right?
Fair
like show up in America and people like, you're what? Like nobody can read it, nobody can say it. So you know, 90210 was very popular. I'm about to age myself here. And my sister said, why don't you just be Jenny? I was like, that sounds really good. I'll just be Jenny. Yeah. So I became Jenny Fedorovich, but much later I gave myself a DJ name, which is Jenny. Yes.
Okay, so Fedorovich.
I just call her Russian Jenny in my phone, so that's.
Jenny also works. You know, I was talking to a friend that like everybody meets somebody for the first time, and then they put some weird description of that person in their phone. Like I have Amy stripper shoes. Like she no longer wears stripper shoes, but
she's still stripper shoes.
Yeah,
that's fair.
She's still that. Yes. So I am Russian Jenny.
Yes. Well, okay. So Russian Jenny, we are extremely honored to have you on our podcast. You've from what Eric has told us about what we've looked into ourselves, honestly, like you've lived an insanely inspirational life and have, from what Eric has said, have great stories about that. And like, we couldn't imagine having anybody else on our podcast that you kind of are catered to that because you're perfect for it by being able to have interesting stories to talk about, because that's kind of what our podcast is, more or less, all of our opinion-based stuff. And yeah, it's just perfect for that. So you have you were an American immigrant from Moscow in 1989. You came over here, not even being able to speak English. Eventually, your life path led to you becoming a techno DJ, playing all over the world, which is insane. Starting several businesses, including a film production company, helping create a successful show on PBS called Startup, now on its 8th season. So, yeah, thank you for coming on our podcast. We're insanely honored. And, how are we getting into this, guys?
When I figured,
I finally got through my spiel.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. I always love to meet new people, hang out, share ideas and thoughts. And,
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Jenny, I figured like we don't necessarily have to go by an exact timeline. You can obviously play with how it goes, but I did think I would like to maybe, for people that don't know you as well as I do, to get into some of the beginnings of like you coming over to America, if that's cool.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And so the story that we've talked about this, people that listen to Detroitcast will know you, but again, we have people that listen that do not know the Detroitcast. So you came over here from Moscow, right? Is that correct? In 1989?
Correct.
How much do you remember? Oh yeah, there we go. 14, right?
14. I was 14 when I landed in America. I was 13 when I left Soviet Union, which, at that time it wasn't Russia, it was Soviet Union.
So you were indoctrinated in that other life and then coming to this new like culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I grew up like into my early teenage years in Soviet Union. Again, it was before perestroika and like us even knowing anything about America. The country was very closed, so only information we would get would be on the black market, which was not information provided to us by the government. So, and at one point, my parents decided to go to America. And, you know, a lot of people live in America and they don't really understand the past some of the immigrants take, right? So we didn't just get in the plane in Moscow, and then in Detroit. We had to go first to Austria. Then we had to go to Italy. We had to seek refugee status. And that process took about 6 months.
6 months.
Almost 6 months. For some people, it was longer. And yeah, we landed here. I remember that day very clearly. It was October 24th, 1989. And I came from a city like Moscow, which is, if you imagine New York, very beautiful, very big city.
Yeah.
You know, and I found myself standing in Oak Park, Michigan, and really great 2-story apartment building. And I was very disappointed with America at that point. Because
just in awe of New York and then coming to some like
you know, when you watch American movies and you live overseas,
it doesn't look like Detroit in the 80s.
You're gonna land and it's gonna be, I joke about it now, I was expecting to see tall buildings and sexy people and money falling from the sky. None of it was.
Do you remember at all if there was any other countries that were like in the running? Do you remember if your parents thought about other places other than Michigan or other than USA?
So in order for us to leave, because we still left the communist country, so you couldn't just leave, right? So when you lived in Soviet Union, they thought it was the best country in the world and nobody could live, whether it's for travel, immigration, none of it. So we were allowed to leave because we were Jewish and Jewish people were discriminated against highly. So at some point, you know, Gorbachev made a deal and we were allowed to leave. So actually, technically, we were supposed to go to Israel. But my parents did not want to go to Israel. They wanted to come to America. But when we were in Italy, we could choose. It could be Canada, it could be US, could be Australia, or Israel. So any of the
so you did have options.
Yeah, we had options, but you were mostly going to where your family was or where there was Jewish community.
Yeah. Were you coming here because family? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have a community out here at the time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Jewish community, there were people that never met us. They raised $1 billion of their own money to bring us out of Soviet Union. So it was really a community of Jewish people that were American people that were, their goal alone was to rescue Soviet Jews out of Soviet Union. Oh. My uncle had lived here already a few years before us. He came here. He was teaching at Wayne State. One of the reasons why we decided to come to Detroit in particular.
Oh, okay. So you did have family here.
Awesome. That's interesting. And then when you get here, I know, again, Tyler and them don't know as much about it, but even though people helped you raise this money to get here, it's not like you were coming here to, a big mansion or something, correct?
Oh, no. People raised this money to get... Yeah, it was. They raised this money to get 2.2 million Jews out of Soviet Union. So it was, you think it's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things, you need to move a lot of people. So when we got here, we had $100, 6 suitcases is all we were allowed to take with us from the Soviet Union. We had to leave everything behind. They gave us an apartment for 6 months, and then you just had to figure out how to make this shit happen.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings? I don't remember if you did or not.
I do. I have a sister, but she didn't come with us. She came later, and she came to California.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then you guys are in this. Was it a 2-bedroom apartment? You said in
2-bedroom apartment in a basement of this place.
You with your parents? With both your parents?
Me and my parents. Yeah.
And you couldn't speak English. So what I've heard you say in the past is that you. And this will get into your DJing career, but like I've heard in the past that you kind of learned English through music, I guess. Is that true?
I mean, it was mostly TV in the beginning.
Oh, TV. Okay.
Yeah, it was TV, like you watch different shows like Who is the Boss, and whatever was on at that time, and you try to learn English that way.
Yep.
For me also, it was, we went to school, but there was a lot of Russian. So we would talk to each other in English language. Yeah. We had one Chinese girl. I think she learned Russian before she learned English as a second language for sure. Oh, wow. Because we were constantly speaking Russian. But then I was exiled by my parents to California to live with my sister. And there was no Russian. So I was more forced into learning the language there.
Oh,
And
okay.
when you say you were exiled to California, what does that mean?
Do you mean do you mean like they sent you away?
Your parents hated
My
you?
parents
And
sent me away. I was like, it was really hard. You're a teenager. Teenage years are hard, let alone you're like in this rebellious years. And then you move and everything is double hard, triple hard. So I was a wild teenager and I think my parents couldn't handle it, which is, they're trying to settle into new life. I always think about in retrospect, if my son will give me 100th of the wildness that I was as a teenager, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally relate.
Yes, I was exiled by my parents to Napa Valley.
Is your sister older than you? Did you go live with your sister because she's older than you?
Yeah, she's 11 years older.
Oh, okay. So you're living with an adult.
And that must have been a big change too, coming out to Napa Valley in California, because I imagine like you were talking about living in Russia till you were 14, or the Soviet Union during the collapse of the Soviet Union and that whole time period. And then you come to Detroit, and Detroit has been also going downhill in that same time period.
Right.
Yep.
The biggest change was, I remember when we went to high school here, people were really mean to us. I mean,
in Michigan, you mean?
In Michigan, yeah. It was Berkeley
Okay.
High School. I mean, they threw food at us in the cafeteria. They were just a bunch of racists, just horrible freaking people.
Yeah, that's awful.
Oh, wow.
Horrible, but moving to California, you could really see the difference in people there. People were so nice.
Gotcha.
They wanted to be friends
more open
with
about
me just because I was different. Even though my first friends were Mexican people, because they also didn't speak English, so we kind of found each other.
Middle ground.
Speaking English way. But the people were much nicer, and it helped me assimilate into the culture much faster, versus here. Where
How long were you out there in California?
Probably about a year and a half.
Oh,
okay.
So not super long.
And then you came back. You were still in high school when you came back, or by that point were you done?
I came back to finish high school here. Yep.
I gotcha.
When was I was just gonna ask, because you being a DJ was like the first thing you started getting into, like actual like the industry or anything, right? Like that's the first thing you did was DJing?
Well, no, I mean I've done all kinds of stuff. I mean, I worked in restaurants, I bartended, I went to college during that time. But DJing, that was special to me because when I just came here and I lived in that shitty apartment in that shitty little basement. I found, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, I highly recommend watching it. It's called The New Dance Show. You should Google it and watch it on YouTube.
All right.
It was like on this random Detroit cable channel, and it was like a Detroit sort of ghetto version of the Soul Train, and it was at somebody's basement. Okay,
that's awesome. That's so cool.
It's so good. It's like somebody's basement that takes place, and everybody just dances in this line, and they wear the most amazing outfits, and they listen to the most amazing music. And I saw that before I even became a DJ, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Where are these people? I need to find these people. These are my people. They're fun. So then I was on a quest to find these people and this fun and where this was taking place. So that's how I made my way into an after-hours gay bar called Heaven, where they played house music, and I fell in love with it. Found myself on the dance floor, probably the only Russian white girl that has ever walked in there. I started hanging out with all the DJs and buying records, and I fell in love with the music. But not until later when I decided to do my own Russian party, because everything else that was awful. And I went to a party. I was like, this just sucks. I'm going to throw my own party. And everybody said, who's going to DJ? I said, I'm going to DJ. I've seen how people do it. I'm going to figure this out. So my first thing, I found myself with equipment I rented and 300 people standing in front of me. Before. I was like, I don't fucking know. Okay, I'll figure this shit out. Yeah.
Were you nervous at all, or just like go through it?
I don't know. When you're young, you have a different tolerance for like crazy shit and being.
That's very true.
How old were you when you kind of started this? Are you in your 20s yet, or no?
I'm in my early 20s when the first time I played like for people. Yes.
And
so
you did not know.
Sorry.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, so was this like with a turntable and stuff like that at that point, or did you have a computer?
Are you mixing stuff?
No, there was no computers, dude. This is 1990.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was imagining.
Okay, so straight turntable.
Yeah.
Okay. 1996. I mean, there's technology up, So I couldn't afford turntables because it was my early 20s and each turntable was $1,000. So I rented equipment, but I couldn't get Russian music on vinyl. So I had some tricky way of like finding Russian music and transferring it into some other digital forms. So it was complicated, but at home I was buying records, but I didn't have turntables until later.
Okay.
And when did you so you say you do this a Russian party, you haven't done it before, you're just like rented equipment. I mean, literally, had you not in any capacity practiced like go transferring from song to song or album to album?
Nope, never.
You just
how did it
threw
go
it together? Yeah, how did it go? Did it go well?
This is what it was amazing. I mean, it was good.
Awesome.
And the best part about it, you have to realize something. So I've been going to this crazy gay bars and after hours. So to this party, which is happening Christmas Eve, because Russian Jewish people don't celebrate Christmas, we have nothing to do. I'm like, it's a perfect date. Like nobody.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I rented out a hole in a synagogue on 10 Mile in Oak Park. Okay, so I'm inside a synagogue. It's Christmas Eve. And there's a bunch of Russian people getting drunk. And I invited drag queens. Because I thought like this would be cool for Russia, and people were just standing there going like, "Oh, what the hell is happening? What is this man dressed like women doing?" Like,
yeah, in a synagogue.
In a synagogue on Christmas.
Yeah.
Whole thing is happening. I did not practice because honestly, like especially when I was younger, I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. Like, other people have figured it out, but I also didn't have equipment. I had no even way of practicing. I'm
right.
Music selection.
So were you like just playing songs and then
yeah,
mixing them with other
songs without a gap? I didn't know.
Okay.
At that point, yeah, but
I'm shocked you were even able to hook it up to a sound system. Did someone? I guess maybe you knew someone who was able to help you do that.
Yeah, there were two guys, Chuck Daniels and Ross Reimer. They brought all the equipment. They hooked it up, and I just played music. I didn't mix any records at that time.
Yeah,
I played music, but it was a hell of a party. And that was the first party I ever threw where I DJ'd.
That's awesome.
How long after that did you feel like you might want to start doing it seriously? Or did you already think before that you did?
So I did a series of parties like for Russian people. They were big and they were huge, but my love was always I wanted to play for like legit Detroit house music parties. But I had no idea how to like get into that crowd, how to be accepted by it. Because it's not like a thing. I don't look like people who do this. I don't look like people who go
right.
So it was one day I was doing a Russian party in Ferndale. And I don't know if you know who Stacey Hotwax Hale is. She's the godmother
of house
music. She's been playing for 45 years. When I was young, I used to listen to her on the radio. She happened to be having dinner at the place. And then she heard me play and she walked up to me. She's like, I don't know who you are. I don't even know what this music is, that this is so awesome. Like, and we became best friends. And she gave me my first ever gig in a house music world where I came and played and people were looking at me and going like, where did you even find this white Russian girl to play this soulful house music? And she told me later, she looked at them and said, if you don't like the way she looks, just close your eyes and listen to her.
Yeah, just listen to the music.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did it take long for people to, I mean, I probably did, but like for people to be able to just enjoy the music for what it was? I mean, did you find even after the first gig, it was still pretty tough or not really?
No. I mean, people, it's like once you kind of get legitimized by somebody who is good, and I feel like it's like with everything. I could say you're a great guy and you're good at something, right?
Right.
And people who know me are going to go, oh, I know Jenny, she vouched for him. So then you better deliver. If you don't deliver, it's on you, right? So as long as, and it's like that with everything in life, as long as you deliver on that day, then you legitimize yourself. So, I mean, she gave me my first chance. People loved it. And I started either getting invited to play, or I also believe is like not waiting for people to invite you. You make your own way into whatever you want to do. Yeah. So, I just became a part of the community and I started playing and throwing parties and became entrenched in it.
So is there any way in specific that like your Russian heritage influences your DJing and your house music?
No.
Or no, okay. So you tend to play a lot of like American.
Yeah, music for me is music. There's good music and bad music, regardless of what it is.
Oh, yes, totally.
My Russian parties and Russian music, for me, I do that because my community wants that. They want to go to the parties. They want to meet each other. They want to listen to this particular music. I personally love house music. That's like my first
Oh, okay.
love, will always will be. So I play Detroit, Chicago, New York, Afro house, Latin house, whatever music I like, I play in those sets.
Yeah.
And it's like almost like I could go way more into this, but I want to focus, other stuff that we can talk with you about. But I am interested in what and how long. You don't have necessarily because of the time frame, but I'm just curious, like what ended up leading to you being able to play. I mean, outside of this country, like that's pretty impressive for especially a female in the DJing world that that's not as open necessarily at times to females.
Yeah.
Everything is all about putting yourself out there, number one, right? Like obviously social media, I think those borders kind of get squashed. And probably like all of my biggest gigs were all kind of random. Like I was playing on 6 Mile and Woodward at La Dolce Vita, and this guy came up to me. He goes, "I want you to come and play in South Africa with David Guetta and Akon." I was like, "What? Are you kidding me right now?"
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
yeah.
Really? And did you think it was?
Literally, he saw me play, and he invited me to play for this big ass. We were talking 10,000-15,000 people type of deal. And then the weirdest part about that story was I tell him how much I want, and then he gives me double. Like, who even does that? Why are you giving me more money than I'm asking for?
Yeah.
Were you, by the way, in that sense, maybe you were big enough at that point that you were pretty confident, but were you at first when that was offered, did you think it was bullshit, or did you think did you believe that it was real? Did he have enough credit to him on the spot that you thought it was real?
No, I mean, he was a businessman outside of this, and he was more like a brand, but like,
Okay. So you felt confident he could back up.
Once people see, of course, I've had crazy offers, like guys from Turkey writing me, offering me $100,000 to play in my bikini. I mean, you know, you know what a bullshit offer is. Or somebody inviting me to play in Pakistan. I'm like, no, definitely not. I'm not going to play in like some random small town. Yes, has kidnapping written all over it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite place in the end, or not a place, but like a gig that you did I mean, maybe it was that one, by the way. That one you just described is pretty wild. Is there one that stands out to you over the years?
That's like your favorite gig?
My favorite, my God, that's so hard, you guys.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know. I totally get it.
So many.
It's probably the favorite, like in a sense where I felt like I'm sort of there, is being invited to play at the Detroit Electronic Music Festival.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Movement. That's like, especially if you're from here and what those guys have accomplished and the level of that festival, regardless of where I go. And it wasn't as many people as in South Africa, 15,000 people, but it doesn't matter. It's sort of like that pinnacle. And I remember that set, it rained so bad and they moved me in the bottom of the, like where the downstairs area was.
I like that set though, actually.
And people started coming and it was just like so beautiful. But then because I'm cheap on a beach in Ukraine, like a beach party that went on
sounds amazing.
4 hours. I mean, it's Ibiza, it's just you name it. It's been so many.
I was gonna say maybe least favorite. What would be your least favorite? Did you have like
that's a good
one
question.
that you hated? Like you were just like, why did I do this?
Well, I know we've all definitely had horror stories from doing comedy,
stand up, where it's like, man, I hated that venue. Like, what did I do? What happened?
Oh my God. Yeah, once I got invited to play somewhere in Florida on some private island, and they take me out to this island, and it's not like even a DJ mixer there. It's like a band mixer. I don't know. Totally did not like read the rider. I don't know what they're doing, but they're like expecting me to put on a full-on show. It's like, what are you even talking about? It's impossible right now.
Yeah, I need.
And they're all mad, and now I have to try to do the show, and
you're stuck on an island.
Yeah, you're stuck on this island, and there's no proper equipment, and people have this like expectations of you that you
that you can't do because they didn't supply the stuff.
Right. Unpleasant, definitely unpleasant.
Fair enough.
And so, I'm going to move on a little bit, but like you're doing DJing, you're doing this stuff around the world, as it were, and it's like, when do you also then decide I'm going to start a film production company? And what was the inspiration?
Where was what was the inspiration, or like what led you to that?
I was DJing throughout all of the years. I've been playing for a really long time. I mean, we're talking about mid-90s, so I've had. I was going to college during that time. I had my one and only corporate job while I was DJing, where I was like, why am I here right now when I could be like out touring the world making 20 times more money, you know?
Yeah.
Then I've had several businesses while I was DJing. So the production company, I didn't start till about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, a friend of mine came over and he said, film industry is coming to Michigan. There's going to be incentives and they're all coming here to make films. We should open some sort of business surrounding the film industry. So I said, sure, let's do this. Very much like I jump into things all the time and figure them out and see if I like them. So
Clearly.
we opened a company called Filming in Detroit that was going to be supplying cars, extras, and locations to the film industry. That was my entry point.
Okay.
We quickly realized that's not something we wanted to be a part of, just because you end up so low in the totem pole, and it's just the hierarchy in film production is insane. So I opened up my own production company about 9 years ago called Parliament Studios, and we did commercial work at first, and then we've moved on to other things.
And did you have, I mean, how much like knowledge of like, I mean, were you going in mainly just as a business person? I mean, or did you have knowledge of video production?
No, zero.
No.
Yeah,
just thought this would be a good...
Like, did you own the company, or are you more heavily involved in the production? Like, what does a production, you having that a production agency entail, more or less? Like, what are your day-to-day like things you have to do for that company?
Everything.
Everything.
So
okay.
I now own more than one production company. So it depends on what I'm doing, what kind of projects I'm doing.
Yep.
But, you know, having a company and being an entrepreneur and owning your own shit, you do everything. So,
okay.
I mean, obviously I don't hold the camera, I don't hold the boom, but I'm a producer and I'm the executive producer. So whether I'm looking for money, whether I'm organizing the productions, you know, just moving things forward, it's all of it. When
I hear production, I just hear a blanket term, and I always wonder, like, literally, what are the specifics of that, more or less? Yeah,
so being a producer, it's like literally you have to do it all, minus the technical things. So we hire, obviously, people with cameras and sound and all of that, and colorists and post-production.
Okay.
Have you put together a team at this point? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was going to say, like, have you put together do you have a good team underneath you as far as at this point where there's like a lot of people that you trust to carry out the more day-to-day specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends on the project and it depends on the company that I'm in, but absolutely, of course. I have a great team, and you have to find the best people and delegate so you could be freed up to do what you want to do, which is really moving other projects forward and developing new projects and all of those things.
And when you were first started this, you said about 9 or 10 years ago, like you were DJing still, and were you still at your corporate job also? Like, did you have to keep a job?
No, corporate job I quit after a year.
Okay. What was that, by the way? You don't have to say the company maybe, but
it was
advertising agency.
Yeah.
Actually, what were you doing there?
I was laid off. I didn't quit. I was laid off.
Okay.
Fun stuff.
And so how were you, not that you don't have to be, I mean, I'm not trying to be too nosy, but how were like, did you have, you had enough money coming in from other, like, was it DJing or like what was able to like kind of allow you to start a film production company without having a corporate gig like that?
Yeah. I mean, DJing, savings. I was always savvy with my money.
Okay.
But really, I mean, DJing, good DJs, I don't know if you saw the news today. David Guetta sold his library to Warner today for $100 million.
I did see that.
You can make a lot of money DJing if you want to. It's all about hustling and, doing your thing and being good at what you do. But yeah.
And then you obviously in the end, you said you were pretty good at money. Do you think the good at money, being good with your money comes from your growing up and just assuming that you don't want to just be like spending all this right away, or was it just naturally came to you to, you think?
I mean, it's probably, of course, where do we get our financial education from, right? I mean, I think there isn't enough of it, honestly, in schools, and they should be a lot better at educating children about finances because we really learn it from our parents, right? So, most immigrants will tell you this. Nobody understands credit when we get here. We just live money, we make money, we spend. So we don't really get involved and take credit cards and take out credit. That's like a foreign thing to us. So of course, like I was like my parents, this is what I do. This is how I do it. until one day I realized like I'm an adult and I don't even have credit history, but I don't owe anything to anybody. So I thought it was good, right? So I'm like,
right.
I don't owe anything anybody. It should be good. I should have this high score, And then they're like, yeah, but you've never gotten any credit from anybody. So no,
you need the credit
because you don't have any credits. Then you start learning about the fact that even if you pay for stuff all the time with the money you have, that's also not a good thing. If you try to establish credit.
Right. It is a weird, weird thing.
I've always thought it's very strange that your rent doesn't improve your credit. That you can pay rent or a mortgage for years and years and that doesn't affect your credit score.
Yeah, mortgage does, but rent, it should. Yes. Right? Everybody should. But the bottom line is, I think that financial education should happen really early on. Like we're learning
for sure.
Stupid shit that we're never going to use it.
Totally, absolutely.
Calculus, but let's get real. I'm good at math. I took calculus. Have I ever used calculus after that? Never again. But I could have used some education about like how do I establish?
How do I set up a 401k or do my taxes or
for sure.
Anything like that.
Oh, I mean, for me on my end, for example, like, on your end, you're saying I didn't owe people money, so I thought I had good credit. On the same hand, I went years with almost maxing out credit cards, but because I paid my credit cards on time, I technically had good credit, even though I was a terrible
maxing them out
in a terribly financially place. But so it's a weird thing. If you guys, Tyler, if you and Scott don't mind, I was going to move on to Upstart or Startup, actually, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really interested. I've never got to talk to you too much about your PBS show. Is that run through either of your production companies, or is that another something else just completely
on it?
Yeah, it does. So about what? So we just filmed season 9. Actually, we just wrapped up production of season 9, and we're going into post-production. So that was about around the same time, 9 years ago. Gary Brado, who is the host of the show, who is my business partner in another production company, came to me, and we knew each other actually through techno. He made a documentary, High Tech Soul, about techno. We knew each other from those days. Then he had moved away. Then he came back to Detroit. He saw that I started a production company. So he came and he said, the economy is in shit. I want to start a TV show about and learn from people what do they do to open a business. I want with you. I need a partner. I think we can do this together. Do you want to do it? Again, I've never made a television show before, so sure, why not? Let's do it.
If people haven't noticed, that's a big
what were your
theme
production credits before? What other projects were you working on before that?
Some commercials, maybe on like film sets, but it's certainly no television show of that.
Yeah,
like
so it was like a next step.
Yeah, it's like a whole other level. So he came to me. I said, sure, let's do it. Well, I mean, other people have done it, is what I believe. Everything is figure outable, basically. You just reverse engineer the steps.
Yep.
So we started, and we were going to do only a local show. It was going to be only on local PBS. There's a show called Under the Radar. He knew those guys. We were going to ask him all the secrets and do it. And we were really doing it to learn from other people how to become better business people. Honestly, it was like a whole emphasis of this. So we shot a pilot, took it to PBS. They're like, oh, this is really good. Let's take you guys like regional. We're like, okay, what do we need to do? They're like, go to Chicago, shoot another pilot, come back. We do that. They're like, we're going to take you national. And we start celebrating. We're like, this is amazing. We're going to have a national show. And then they go, but this is PBS, so you have to find your own money.
It's such a
just like
we'll green light it if you can pay for it.
Yeah, it became just like any other businesses, right? You have a great idea, you have a proof of concept, but now you got to get the money, and you have.
Was that like legitimately like a mind blow? Like, did you not have that thought? Did you wholly?
No,
like,
because
they told us it's good.
No, we thought somebody's going to write us a check, which is what happened. On other networks, that does happen. Like, we have a show on HDTV. They write us a check. We make a show. They
right.
PBS works differently. Like, nothing works like PBS. We own our own content, but we have to find corporate sponsors to finance it. So,
did you have any thought when that was the case? Like, well, we've got something. They like it. Maybe we should just try to go somewhere that will pay us. Or did you like that idea better anyway?
No, we had a conversation with Discovery. They offered us a lot of money, but we turned them down. They offered us quite a bit of money because they wanted to change the concept of the show. So they wanted it to be a competition. They wanted it to be something else. You know,
competition.
that was not.
Yeah, that would have defeated the whole like genuine nature of the show. Like,
Exactly. So we decided against it, and we decided to take our chances and, you know, be in charge of it, because the thing with PBS is you own it, you produce it, you find people to pay for it, corporate sponsors, and then it never goes off the air as long as you do that. On the traditional network, a minute your ratings dip below whatever it is that they feel they want, that's it. It doesn't matter how much you love it. It doesn't matter that it's your baby. It's gone.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Did you have something, Tyler? I'm sorry. I think you were asking something.
No, go ahead.
Go
I was
Scott.
gonna say, I was curious. Like, I noticed, like, in each of the seasons, you guys are kind of covering a different region as far as like a general, like, seems like 1 or 2 states. And like, has there been any big difference between different like regions of the U.S. that you've noticed as far as filming the show and people creating businesses?
I don't know if there's been like regional differences. I mean, honestly, entrepreneurial mindset is entrepreneurial mindset, no matter where you are in the country, you know.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you might find some businesses that you can do in one place, but not in the other. But overall, I would not say there is differences between us going to particular parts of the country. You know, we were just in Wilmington, North Carolina. I've never even heard of this place. Okay. I couldn't even point to it on the map. But for 3 years, a guy has been writing me from there. And he's been saying, you need to come to our town. I promise you, you're going to see some of the most incredible businesses. And he was right. In this little town, we found some of the most interesting, amazing stories I've seen in a long time.
What about that town in specific created that environment, or like what?
What made it special? Like what kind of
I don't know if it's the ecosystem. I don't know it's the type of people that move there, but literally, like every story I touch there, like there's a couple, they have 4 children, 2 of them have Down syndrome, 1 is autistic. They started a coffee shop where they've grown so much. They have 5 they own, and they have 14 franchises already. They employ 120 people with disabilities that are visible. Okay. There are people who are making the coffee. There are people who are dancing. There are people who are packing it. They're not the people that we're used to seeing people with disabilities somewhere in a back that nobody's seeing. And it's so amazing, and they're growing like wildfire. I mean, there's going to be so many franchises, and this couple is just really changing how people are treating people with disabilities. I mean, it's
really
amazing.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And you found that in that town. This is a town that you had not heard of. This guy's just been writing you for 3 years.
And in the same town, and I got the story before 60 Minutes has it, actually. And we will be the first people to share this story. A guy who started a brewery, and he takes people from opposing gangs that hate each other and want to kill each other on a daily basis. And it's a brewery, and they brew beer together, and they have educational programs. And he is teaching them everything about business, life, and all these beautiful things that are happening. And it's happening there. I haven't seen that anywhere else.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's the kind of content you can do with PBS rather than like going to some bigger company too.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. And I mean, PBS is big. Our show is big. We have millions of viewers. So it's actually the 5th largest network in America. So a lot of people don't realize how big PBS is.
Yeah.
The dollars are not as big, but
yeah.
I personally do not do this to make bajillions of dollars. If I wanted to do that, I'd make Kardashians or some other shitty television show that just brings no value into people's lives.
Shovel some money in your
How many like businesses do you go through in a normal season? It's like
so are you meeting any of these people too? Are you going in like to these towns and meeting the people that are on your show?
So I did first 5 seasons, and after season 5, I was blessed enough to get pregnant. So I became pregnant and had my son. I have not been on the road except last season. We were not forced, but we love it anyways. We shot all of our season in Detroit because of the pandemic. So I was at all of the shoots. But on average, like I've interviewed, I would say between 130 to 150 small business owners to get 13 people in the show.
Oh my
gotcha.
Yeah, just to get those 13.
what is it that you look for when you're looking for the third? Because I'm sure in a way they're all probably good. If they get to the point where you're interviewing them, they must be, doing something right.
Yeah, how do you whittle it down?
There's people that look good on paper, right? And they write beautiful stories about themselves.
Yep.
But when you get them on the phone or you get them on Zoom, which I prefer because I get to see them, I mean, you obviously have to be able to deliver the story on camera. I mean, you have to be good at this. You can't be looking at me like deer in the headlights like this, Yeah.
Right.
B, it's honestly about passion. It's about things that matter. It's about your why. If somebody wrote you a check and you're a trust fund kid, it's a different vibe when you just hustled, you grinded, you worked.
You really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a different vibe. You just know, and I've been doing this for so long. Like, I know usually within the first 10 minutes whether or not I'm going to cast somebody. I'll still talk to them, but I will know in my first 10, 15 minutes.
I imagine, too, probably growing up in the situation that you did and having all these experiences and stuff, that you probably can spot that in other people.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of tell, you seem like a trust fund kid. You don't seem genuine or something.
Yeah, you just know. And I mean, there's great people that are like doing great things, but like, I don't know. What we put out, I want it to be truly inspirational. So that's the reason for the show. We want to inspire and educate. When you watch our show, whether it's Sunday, Saturday, wherever you are, and you're like, wow, I'm no different than this guy or this woman, but this is what they did. Like, what am I meant to do in this life? Like, no human being is meant to sit in a cubicle. So we all know that.
Yeah.
Like, nobody woke up one day and said, I'm going to sit in this cubicle and that's like all I want to do in my life and I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I think the biggest downfall is...
It might be a nightmare for some people.
People get comfortable with whatever their life is and they never really truly discover what drives them, what their passion is. What do they really love to do? What is life all about? Life is about life. It's not about sitting in cubicles.
So with the goal being inspiration and education and stuff, from your own life and from doing this show and stuff, has there been any, like, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice you would give to other people
trying to pursue their
dreams? Yes.
You know who Gary Vee is?
No, I don't.
No, he's this awesome Russian immigrant who swears he's a public speaker, a guy who made tons of money in tech. So he said it the best, ideas are shit, execution is game. So everybody has ideas. Yeah. Everybody. When people come to me and they're like, oh, I have an idea, I'm not going to tell you. I'm like, thank God. Like, I
don't want to hear it.
Tell me. Like, if I have to listen to another, because you're going to steal it. I'm like, okay, listen, I've got 1,000 of my own ideas that I'm going to execute. You think I'm going to take yours and run away with it? Like, seriously. Yeah. So execution, it's all about executing what your idea is, even if it's small steps or doing something towards it every day. The most successful people figure out how to execute on their ideas. And with the knowledge that we have now and with the access that you have now, you can learn and reverse engineer anything. Obviously, we're not going to space. We're not trying to become doctors. So I'm not talking about things that are highly technical. But anything in business can be reversed engineered, or it could be learned from other people that have successfully done it.
That makes sense. That's some very good advice.
Honestly, you have to do the work. When people look at immigrants and people like us, and they're like, "Oh, you here took our jobs." Okay, motherfuckers, you didn't want to sweep the floors for $5 an hour. We did.
Right.
For sure. You see me 20 years in the making, overnight success, and now you want to say to me and people like me that have busted our ass to have everything that we have, that we come here and we take people's jobs. That's not the case.
Right.
Yeah, not at all.
That's a very good point.
As far as your show, do you have any thoughts on like how are you just going to keep doing it until you've decided? Because there's no way you could. I mean, there's got to be a million stories out there, so you technically could.
Yeah, you're going to go on forever.
We're never going to run out of content. Season 8 was last year. We did our 100th episode. It was about us and how we started the show, because people have been asking us for a long time to tell our story. So we did that. I think next year is going to be a big season for us, which is season 10. It's 10 years. If you asked me 10 years ago, do I know if this is going to go on? I probably would have said, no, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know anything
I mean, that's a
about it?
long-running show. 10
Yeah,
seasons.
it's a very long-running show that continues to, rise. We're now in 40 plus countries.
Yeah.
We're in the whole continent of Africa. We were just bought in all the Arabic countries actually yesterday. And it's really is like a global thing where people want to learn about the way American people do business, about our life, about our lifestyle, about what to do, because in other countries, you just don't have the freedoms that we have here that people don't understand. You can't just wake up one day in another country necessarily and say, I want to open a business. Here you can.
Yeah.
Like literally, I have a woman on my show this year that started a side hustle that her husband didn't even know about that now is like a major business. She just started selling their own furniture. Like a living room, and the guy didn't even notice.
He didn't notice it.
And so what did she turn it into? What did she turn it into now? She's selling like
vintage furniture from all over the country. She has 26-foot trucks driving it, and she started it on Instagram. It's her own investment. It was her own furniture in her own living room that she was selling because she wanted new shit. And a year and a half later, she made all this money, didn't even tell the guy until they went on a road trip. And she's like,
Jesus.
oh,
Hey, by the way, I'm a multimillionaire. It's no big deal.
No, it wasn't like that crazy, but she was selling everything for cash, and she had like all these piles of cash that she took on a road trip. And she tells him, he's like, you have a business. Like, what are you even doing right now?
Just selling our furniture.
You mentioned that like either today or yesterday, I guess, you said your show got bought up in some Arabic countries.
Yeah.
Correct. How does that go down? I mean, how long of a process is that? I mean, is that something that's been technically in the works for months, or is it pretty fast?
We have an international agent that sells our shows to many countries, so they have a market. And what happens is when you have the larger your library is, the more desirable you become. So with every year the library grows, people want to have it. So
gotcha.
Yeah, but they handle that. We're all over the place, airlines or whatever else. So.
That's interesting. Have you ever been on a flight and seen something that you've made before? Well, you probably have. Russian 5's been on.
Russian 5, I've been on so many flights, and it was so real. Like, I flew once, and I swear probably 70% of the plane was watching it. It was insane because I just
that's got to be such a surreal experience.
I walked by every row, and it had just gotten on the plane. I was like, oh my God, all these people are watching this movie that I made. That's insane.
Right. The Russian. By the way, this, and I didn't even get to Tyler Scott's much about the Russian 5 because there was so much else that you've done. But so it's a documentary that she produced. Okay, sorry. Did you want to say something?
No. Go ahead, Eric.
It was just a documentary that was produced. It was about the Detroit Red Wings team that had the first ever all 5 Russians on the same line. And so, Jenny, I'm curious, how is that? Is that still moving along pretty well? Is it still going places in festivals, or is it kind of dying down at this point? Or
it's not in festivals. So festivals played, then we went to full-on distribution. We were in theaters. We were one of the top grossing documentaries of 2019.
Awesome.
We actually just sold it to New Zealand last week. So
really?
It's still alive and kicking. And I think it's one of those things that's going to be alive and kicking for a while. And, people.
Well, it's kind of a timeless story in reality. It doesn't really need you can watch it at any point. So it's not.
Yeah.
I was just curious how those things. So is that something you have to just
it's not
still
really dated? It's a very
get emails here or there. You just still every once in a while have to devote some time to it. Or
do you get people talking about it to you in the street? Do you ever get recognized for that stuff?
I was just at a party. It's not about being recognized, but people that know that I made it. And if I get introduced as a producer of that, I was just at a party on Saturday, and this guy came up to me and started talking what it meant to him watching the film. And
that's really beautiful.
And we've got some great things in the works potentially, maybe with a feature film or a mini series on this in Hollywood. So we'll see.
A feature film on like kind of the Russian 5. Are you talking about?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good story.
We've optioned the rights, so we'll see where it goes from here.
Do you have anything? What else? Speaking of the future, do you have anything big that you're kind of working on? I mean, you always are working on something, Jenny.
Always.
To be honest with you, you're the busiest person I freaking know.
Anything in
but I mean, is there
specific?
anything you could talk about yet that's kind of you're excited about?
I mean, there's a couple documentary and film projects that I'm working on. Nothing that I could talk about at this point. What I'm super excited about, for years, I've been wanting to do the show about immigrants. So I will host the show. It will also be on PBS. And I'm going to go around to different pockets and meet people in different cultures. And I'm going to take the viewer on this adventure with them, because I want them to understand where people come from,
That's
how
amazing.
they got here. What is this people's food like? What are their celebrations like? How do they feel about death? And then I'm going to wrap it up with people realizing how much this particular people have done for American culture and what they have brought to this country and what the significance of that is.
That's amazing.
How far along in that are you? Are you just at this point?
Is it
happening,
just like concept or yeah?
It's concept close to being shot for a pilot.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we will start in Detroit and we will do a pilot on the Chaldean culture, which is, if you are not living in Michigan or in San Diego, you have no idea what a Chaldean person is and what their culture is like. But they're very ancient indigenous people that lived in Babylon and Mesopotamia that have carried their life all the way here. So, yeah, it will definitely be interesting and fun and educational, and inspirational. And I want to create tolerance, and just for people to understand that when you hear somebody with an accent, all that means I know more than one language than you, most likely.
Yeah, honestly, I definitely thought about that myself.
Do you feel like you basically have a better chance at getting, like, as far as PBS, is it having your other show? Is there any chance they would like not take it, or like is that set up already, or? No.
Yeah, I don't see why they wouldn't take it. I mean,
okay.
No, I mean, that sounds like I'd pick it up.
Scott, you have some...
So is there anybody like, it sounds like, you have a lot of projects, you have a lot of stuff you're working on. Is there anybody either in music or in television right now that is very inspirational to you, or that you really think is breaking new ground?
I just watched a show on Showtime called Zive. Have you seen that?
No,
I haven't seen it, but I know of it.
Yeah, I mean, I found it to be very interesting, and she's funny, but yet she's like political and she's getting her point across. It was like so refreshing because it's so in your face with what she's doing. And
is it like a news-based show, or like, I'm not familiar. So is it like a Jon Stewart kind of thing, or?
She's a host, right? And she does these skits, but then she invites people and talks about like really deep things. It's mostly based around like racism and things of that nature. And I was really blown away by what she's doing and how she's doing it.
Okay,
interesting. I'll have to check it out.
Honestly,
super interesting, and then I forgot what her name is. I actually just saw her in Miami. She did that show Bubblegum on Netflix, and then they wanted to Michaela, whatever her name is. Yeah, she wrote and starred in a show for them, and then she wrote this new show that's now on HBO, and Netflix offered her like $1 million for it, but wouldn't give her any sort of credit or ownership. So she told them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, that's what she should have done.
I love her for that. Like flat out, fuck yourself, and left. And now a show on HBO that she owns, executively produces. She stars in it, and I have so much respect for people like that, because it's so hard when people lay out that money and all that stuff. It's so hard for somebody to just say, no, I want to own my shit.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
that's where the
power. You just want to say yes, really, honestly, in those situations.
Our business, you get a lot more power in owning your shit, right?
Yep,
and a lot of
absolutely
people do that. So I gotta
that's awesome.
She owns her shit.
Yeah,
that's awesome, right?
That is awesome. That was a good answer.
I guess I'm gonna see if Tyler and Scott have anything or more to go. But man, it's pretty much an hour up here, and it flew by as usual. But do you guys have any kind of final things you want to ask her about or talk to her about?
I did. I don't know.
I got most of my questions I had written down, to be honest.
Okay. Well,
the only thing one big question I honestly like that poodle.
What's your dog's name?
His name is Portland the Poodle.
What'd you say, Portland?
Portland the Poodle.
Oh, Portland the Poodle. He is adorable. And by the way,
go ahead.
What were you going to say?
No, go ahead, Tyler.
I just wanted to ask, what I'm very curious with that stuff. Like, what was maybe, in your opinion, the oddest fan interaction, or someone recognizing you, or dealing with somebody who, fan interaction? Have you?
Oh my God. I think it's by far was at that Detroit podcast thing.
Boy.
To sign his wooden leg.
That's
they're a crazy bunch.
I signed a lot of stuff before, but not somebody's wooden.
You ever sign someone's chest or anything, like the reverse of you ever signed it?
I've had some
Jenny.
Crazy.
I imagine a wooden leg would be permanent too. You're probably not getting that off.
No, he's got her signature for life.
Yeah.
I think with the Detroit cast listeners, Jenny, you're lucky it was just a wooden leg, to be honest with you. That's
could have been something else. It could have been gone real weird.
I'm just saying. Well, I think that's gonna do it, Johnny. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Honestly, I found out a lot more about you than I've known in the past. Because when you come on the Detroit cast, I think we were more specifically, you were there for very specific reasons at the time, so I didn't get into as much of this other past. And plus, I'm not sure Mike was as interested in the DJing as I am. So I enjoyed this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Everything that we talked about, like, I'm incredibly interested in, and like had a great time.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, guys. And just leave you with this. Just make sure you really follow your dreams, because anything is possible. Honestly, whoever is listening, there's literally nothing you cannot accomplish in this world if you set out your mind to it.
Thank you.
Literally anything. You just have to find. The hardest part is always finding out what is it that you want, what is it that you're passionate about, what is it that you truly love and desire in this life. So just
what's funny?
Follow your dreams, whatever they are. No matter.
We usually do kind of a final thought, and you didn't know about this, but in the end, I think that's good. That you did a good enough job there. Just
good.
Doing it.
Yeah, great final thought. For our podcast.
All right. So I guess it's Tyler. You want to wrap it up?
Thank you for checking out the Two Hippies, One Drunk podcast. We really appreciate you guys watching and sticking through it with us. Thank you again, Jenny, for coming on. It's fantastic to have you on here. We learned a lot. If you haven't yet, subscribe to our podcast page on Facebook, Two Hippies, One Drunk. We're also on iTunes. Like us, subscribe, do all the stuff you can. Thank you very much for checking us out, and thanks for all the response we've been getting. And we will see you next week. So.
Yeah, and we should probably mention too, because we didn't at the beginning. We're still running that promotion, that weekly promotion too, where if anybody who wants to give us 5 stars and comment, we once a week we do a drawing, and we give out either several of Tyler's drawings or a hour-long tarot reading from me. So just please 5 stars, comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next week.